I thought moving into Silver Pines would finally give me some peace. That change the morning Victoria Hayes knocked on my door. She handed me an outrageous HOA violation notice. Then she gave me two choices: pay or leave. The notice claimed I owed $18,000. According to Victoria, I had violated several mysterious HOA rules. I asked her to show me exactly what I had done wrong. She just pointed at the deadline and told me to pay. That night, I decided to read every HOA document I could find. I checked the bylaws, my purchase agreement, and the property records. The more I researched, the stranger the find became. Something about Victoria's claim simply didn't add up. My deed clearly showed what property I actually owned. The HOA notice described boundaries that didn't match my records. I began wondering whether the HOA had authority over that part of my property at all. So I decided to check the county records. The county clerk pulled up my property's official records. She checked the parcel number against my deed. Then she paused and looked at me carefully. She said, "There's something you need to see." The official map showed a boundary completely different from the HOA's claim. A portion of my property wasn't actually part of their association. That meant Victoria had been demanding money for land the HOA didn't control. I left the office with a copy of the official records. The next morning, I returned to Victoria's office. I placed the county records directly in front of her. I told her the disputed land wasn't under HOA authority. Her expression changed instantly. Victoria refused to accept the county's records. She insisted the HOA had controlled the property for years. I asked her one simple question: "Where's that authority written?" She couldn't give me an answer. I decided this was no longer something I should handle alone. I brought the entire file to a property attorney. After reviewing the documents, he leaned back in his chair. Then he told me Victoria had made a very serious mistake. The dispute finally reached the courtroom. Victoria arrived convinced the judge would side with the HOA. My attorney presented the county's official property records. Then Judge Mitchell looked directly at Victoria and asked, "Where's your deed?" The judge carefully examined the deed I had brought. Then he compared it with the HOA's documents. Victoria's attorney suddenly became much less confident. The judge asked why the HOA had no deed proving ownership. Victoria tried to explain that the HOA had always considered the land theirs, but the judge stopped her before she could continue. He reminded her that assumptions don't establish property rights. Only valid legal documents could do that. My attorney presented the county's certified property map. The boundary was unmistakable. The disputed section belonged to my property, not the HOA. Victoria had been trying to enforce rules on land she didn't control. Victoria's attorney quietly asked her where the HOA's ownership document was. She searched through the entire folder. There was no deed, no transfer, and no valid purchase record. The $18,000 fine was suddenly looking very different. The judge then examined the HOA's own governing documents. They clearly limited the association's authority to its actual community property. The disputed parcel wasn't included. Victoria had exceeded the authority she claimed to have. The judge ruled that the HOA could not enforce its fine against me. He also ordered the association to remove the violation from my record. Victoria sat completely silent. Her pay or leave ultimatum had just collapsed in court. When I walked out of the courthouse, the $18,000 fine was gone. I hadn't paid a single dollar. The HOA had finally been forced to follow the same rules imposed on everyone else. And Victoria wasn't finished dealing with the consequences. The HOA board called an emergency meeting after the court ruling. Several members demanded to know why Victoria had issued the illegal fine. For once, nobody was afraid to question her decisions. The board began discussing changes to HOA leadership. I went home that evening feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks: peace. My property was legally mine, and the HOA couldn't change that with a threatening letter. The lesson was simple. A rule book doesn't give anyone ownership of land they don't own. Victoria told me to pay or leave my own property. Instead, the judge made her prove the HOA had any right to control it. She couldn't, and the court sided with the actual property records. If you enjoyed this story, like and subscribe, and tell me, where are you watching from?